The 3 moons of Zenthar Prime cast their silver glow across the crystalline cliffs as Arya stood at the edge, her hiking boots planted firmly on the alien terrain. She had come to this remote planet as part of a cultural exchange program, never expecting to witness what unfolded before her eyes that fateful evening. Oscar, a wealthy Zentharian heir with scales that shimmered like polished emeralds, stood arguing with his mother near the cliff's edge. His forearms gesticulated wildly, his voice rising above the howling wind. Arya couldn't understand their language completely, but the tone was unmistakable, bitter, venomous, filled with greed. The inheritance should be mine now. Oscar's translator device caught his words. "You've lived long enough, mother." Before Arya could process what was happening, Oscar's powerful arms shot forward, shoving his elderly mother toward the precipice. The old Zentharian woman, her scales dulled with age, stumbled backward, her cry of shock piercing the night air. Arya's hand flew to her mouth in horror, but she wasn't alone. Beside her, Max, her loyal German shepherd, who had been approved for the journey as an emotional support animal, burst into action. The dog had been trained for search and rescue back on Earth, and his instincts kicked in with remarkable speed. Max launched himself forward, his powerful jaws clamping down on the trailing edge of the elderly woman's ceremonial robes. Just as she teetered on the cliff's edge, the fabric stretched taut, and for a heart-stopping moment, Arya thought both dog and alien would plummet into the abyss below. "Max, hold!" Arya screamed, sprinting toward them. The German shepherd's muscles strained, his paws digging into the crystalline ground. The elderly Zentharian clawed at the cliff edge, her eyes wide with terror. Oscar stood frozen, apparently shocked that his plan had been interrupted by a mere earth creature. Arya reached them within seconds, dropping to her knees and grabbing the old woman's upper arms. The Zentharian skin felt cool and smooth beneath her fingers, so different from human flesh, yet the fear in her large, iridescent eyes was universally recognizable. "I've got you," Arya grunted. Pulling with all her strength, Max refused to release his grip. Backing up slowly, adding his considerable strength to Arya's efforts. Together, human and dog dragged the elderly alien away from certain death. Inch by precious inch. Oscar finally seemed to shake off his stupor, his face contorted with rage as he realized what was happening. "You interfering human," he snarled, advancing toward them. "This is none of your concern." But Arya had already activated her emergency communicator, a device all exchange participants carried. "Security. Emergency at Crystalline Point. Attempted murder in progress." The Zentharian heir hesitated, his calculating mind clearly racing. He could eliminate all 3 witnesses, but the communication had already been sent. The planet's security forces would arrive within minutes. His scales shifted from emerald to a muddy browner sign of extreme distress in his species. "You've ruined everything," Oscar hissed. But he made no move to approach them further. Arya held the trembling elderly woman close, while Max positioned himself between them and Oscar, a low growl rumbling in his chest. The dog's hackles were raised, his teeth bared in warning. Despite being on an alien world with strange scents and unfamiliar gravity, Max's protective instincts were unwavering. The old Zentharian woman clutched Arya's arm with surprising strength. "Thank you," she whispered in heavily accented English. "Thank you, young human, and your loyal companion." Within minutes, the whine of hover vehicles filled the air. Zenthorian security forces descended upon the scene, their weapons drawn. Oscar immediately began protesting. claiming it had been an accident, that his mother had slipped, that the human was confused, but the elderly woman, whose name Arya learned was Magistrate Valsera, told a different story. She had suspected her son's intentions for weeks, had even documented his threats. The evidence was damning, especially combined with Arya's eyewitness testimony and the security footage from her communicator, which had automatically begun recording when she triggered the emergency alert. Oscar was taken into custody, his protests growing weaker as the reality of his situation became clear. On Zentho Prime, attempted murder of a family member, especially a parent, carried severe consequences. In the days that followed, Arya found herself something of a celebrity. The story of the human woman and her earth dog who had saved Magistrate Valsera spread across the planet's communication networks. Zentharians were fascinated by the concept of Dog's Earth, animals bred for loyalty and companionship, capable of such brave acts. Magistrate Valsera personally thanked Arya in a formal ceremony, presenting her with a crystalline star, one of the highest honors a non-Zentharian could receive. But more touching was the private moment afterward, when the elderly alien had knelt down to scratch Max behind the ears. "On our world," Valsera said softly, "we have no creatures like this. We have pets, yes, but none with such loyalty, such instinct to protect. Your species has created something remarkable not through genetic engineering or technology, but through thousands of years of companionship and trust." Arya smiled, her hand resting on Max's head. "Dogs have been humanity's best friends for millennia. They've saved countless lives, brought joy to millions. Max is special, but he's also just doing what dogs do best, protecting those who need help." The magistrate's scales shimmered with what Arya had learned to recognize as deep emotion. "I owe my life to both of you, and I have learned something important about your people. You bring your loyalty with you, embodied in creatures like Max. Perhaps that is what the galaxy needs more of. Not just advanced technology or political alliances, but simple, unwavering loyalty." As Arya and Max walked back to their quarters that evening, the three moons rising once again over the crystalline landscape, she reflected on how one moment of courage could change everything. Oscar would face justice for his crimes. Valsera would live to continue her important work as a magistrate, and the bond between humans and dogs had been demonstrated to an entirely new species. Max trotted beside her, his tail wagging, completely unaware that he had become an interstellar hero. To him, he had simply done what any good dog would do, protected someone in need, and perhaps, Arya thought, that was the most human thing of all.